One evening, Robert Downey Jr. visited his own restaurant in Malibu without anyone noticing him. At 60 years old, he still had that charismatic presence that made him famous in Hollywood. His salt and pepper hair and familiar goatee were partially hidden under a simple baseball cap, a modest attempt at disguise that worked better than expected. He hadn't planned to stop by that night, but decided to check in when no one was expecting him. After decades in the spotlight, from his early struggles with addiction to his triumphant comeback as Iron Man, Downey valued these rare moments of normalcy. As he entered the upscale seaside establishment, Stark's, a clever nod to his most iconic role, Downey noticed something unusual: the sound of someone crying. The restaurant had the perfect ambiance with its ocean views and modern decor featuring subtle nods to his film career, but that sound was distinctly out of place. Following it, he spotted a young waitress hidden near the kitchen trying to compose herself while wiping away tears. Though she quickly put on a brave face and returned to work, Downey could tell she was deeply upset. Years of portraying complex characters had made him particularly attuned to real human emotions. Overhearing two employees nearby, Downey learned that a customer had been harassing the waitress all night. She was new, having only started working there a month ago, and no one was stepping in to help her. The manager was off duty, and the assistant manager was overwhelmed with a large party in the private dining room. Looking around the dining room, Downey spotted the troublemaker, a loud middle-aged man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit and designer watch, acting like he owned the place. Downey recognized the type immediately. He'd played characters like that early in his career. The waitress, whose name tag read Emma, returned to the floor, moving carefully as she approached the man's table. Her body language showed she was preparing herself for more mistreatment, shoulders tense and smile forced. When the man saw her, he smirked and made rude comments about her service, calling her incompetent and distracted. His dining companion, a woman who appeared increasingly uncomfortable, said nothing, pretending not to notice his behavior while studying the wine list with unusual intensity. The situation got worse when the man claimed she got his order wrong. He'd ordered the steak medium rare, not medium, he insisted loudly. Even though Downey could tell this was just another excuse to belittle her, he'd overheard the original order from his corner table. The waitress stayed professional and offered to have the kitchen fix the meal. But the man continued to insult her, commenting on everything from her appearance to questioning if she even graduated high school. This was too much for her, and though she didn't show it openly, Downey saw that she was deeply hurt before she disappeared into the kitchen again. He noticed her hand trembling slightly as she collected the plate. When she returned with a replacement steak several minutes later, the man reached for her wrist in a way that made her flinch, demanding she stay while he cut into the meat to make sure she got it right this time. That's when Downey decided to step in. In a calm but firm voice that carried the weight of his years in Hollywood, he said, "That's enough." The entire restaurant went quiet as he stood up and approached the table, his presence commanding attention without effort. The man was confused at first, asking who Downey was, and mocking him, not recognizing the famous actor without the signature Tony Stark goatee and designer suits. "Who do you think you are, her father?" the man scoffed. Downey replied simply that he was just a man who doesn't like bullies, a line reminiscent of his Marvel co-star's character, but spoken with genuine conviction that came from his own life experiences. "I've been both the bully and the bullied in my life," Downey added. "Trust me, neither role ends well." As the confrontation continued, the restaurant remained silent with everyone watching, some guests now recognizing the actor and discreetly taking out their phones. The man's friend became visibly uncomfortable, no longer supporting his behavior and whispering, "That's Robert Downey Jr. Please, let's just go." When the man tried to defend himself, saying he was just expecting good service, Downey stepped closer and warned him with just one word: "Careful." The word carried the weight of someone who had seen the consequences of unchecked arrogance firsthand. "You know," Downey continued, his voice carrying easily through the silent restaurant, "I spent years of my life playing a character who started as a self-centered jerk who thought money and power were all that mattered. The whole point was that he learned to be better. It's never too late to have that character development in real life." Realizing he had lost control of the situation and now recognizing the celebrity confronting him, The man tried to dismiss the whole thing with a nervous laugh. Just having a bad day, that's all. No need to make a scene. But Downey wasn't finished. He demanded that the man apologize to Emma. After initially resisting, the man finally looked at her and gave what appeared to be a genuine apology, his arrogance deflated by the public confrontation. The restaurant manager appeared, having been alerted to the situation, and suggested the man should leave. But surprisingly, Emma spoke up. With newfound confidence, she said he could stay, but she wouldn't be serving him anymore. Another server would take over their table. She was taking back her power and setting her own boundaries, something Downey himself had learned to do throughout his recovery journey. Before leaving, Downey had a quiet word with the manager about better supporting the staff, then placed a $100 bill on the counter as recognition for Emma's good service, along with a note that read, "Standing up to bullies takes more courage than being one. RDJ." As word spread through the restaurant about what had happened, several other patrons followed his lead, leaving generous tips for the young waitress. Outside in the cool California night air, with the Pacific Ocean breeze gently ruffling his hair, he reflected that he hadn't come looking for trouble. But when someone was being mistreated, he couldn't stand by and do nothing. After his own journey through addiction and redemption, finding his way back from rock bottom to become one of Hollywood's most respected actors, Downey had learned that true heroism wasn't about playing superheroes on screen. It was about the small acts of kindness and courage in everyday life. The story ends with the message that real strength comes from standing up for what's right, even when no one else does. A lesson Downey had learned through his own journey of redemption in Hollywood. As he drove away in his electric Audi, another subtle nod to Tony Stark, he smiled thinking that maybe some of that superhero spirit had rubbed off on him after all these years.